Yep, we're good to go.
Cool. All right, everybody, welcome to a special week of Sushi Forum episodes. We'll be doing an AMA sort of community call every day this week to discuss the Phantom proposal, the Phantom Raise proposal, and then also to talk about the 720 release. I'm sure we'll get into that in later days, but we're breaking it up into multi-days just because there's so much to talk about. It, really only makes sense to do this. So today we'll be sort of recapping the general discussion around the raise so far. We'll be going over sort of how it's changed in this proposal, the current sort of iterations of the arrays that it's looking like, just to clarify a lot of the discussion around it, because a lot of people seem to be on different pages when it comes to what has changed with it since the original post by Mackie.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great opportunity to get everybody up to speed and on the same page, and just kind of less fracture towards where this is headed, and kind of consolidate ideas, and especially having Omakase and Rachel here to try and kind of shed light on more of the inner side of it as well. So hopefully we can get everybody up to speed, and then you can just have a nice audio recording to listen to rather than tons of threads and everything. So hopefully we can consolidate as much info as we can here.
Definitely. Thanks everyone for coming out. I know, Phantom Troupe has had a crazy week. We're committed to, I think what it comes down to is having increased visibility, increased transparency, and increased accessibility. I'm going to post something on the forum, probably a little bit after this AMA, to kind of give the roadmap going forward, and also, my personal family. Anybody wants to schedule a call, anybody has any questions, anybody's unsure about something, accessibility is key. Communication shouldn't be a blocker lack of communication shouldn't be a blocker to this proposal. I think originally when we started off this proposal, it probably blindsided a lot of people. And we're here to make sure that everybody has all the access and all the questions answered, and make sure everybody's up to speed. So that's to start off. Also, encourage everybody currently listening to raise hands, ask questions, bring up points, etc. We've been having lots of discussions with community members, with also interested parties, etc. And going forward, I think we could also use this session to do a quick summary, and from that summary also, kind of consolidate some key definitions, right, that the community has been asking through various questions and in the forum on Twitter, etc. I think the first question is really this definition of strategic and what it means for sushi, what it means for the community, and what it means for core as we understand it. So if anybody has any questions right now, please raise your hand. If not, we can start to define really what strategic means. Because
I think that's a great way to just start off. Just start off with that, just saying what, because nobody really, there's a lot of questions around that. So just maybe frame that from what a traditional sense of what strategic could mean, and then how this could actually benefit sushi from a strategic standpoint as well.
Great, definitely. I think in order to understand the definition of strategic, we have to understand where sushi is currently and where we're going. At the end of the day, we, as a community, we've grown into lots of different product aspects, and I think sushi is on an inflection point where we have to, consolidate all the work that we've been doing for the past 2 quarters and building out various financial primitives and also expanding those to a wider audience. So essentially, what it comes down to is, um, where sushi is today is that, we've taken the past 2 quarters to build, not only, AMM, but also next gen AMM, you know, cashier lending, and with lending comes options. We have Miso Launchpad. Um, we also have MasterChef V2, right? And we also have multi-chain expansion. So this is really defining sushi as the place to launch, grow, incentivize, and expand your project, right? We consider this to be like horizontally integrating the token supply chain, right? From launch all the way to incentivization, all the way to maturity for all sorts of digital assets. So what that means for us moving forward is, A, we need to consolidate all these features, right? We're coming out with token pages. We're also coming out with token administration features, right, to make this more comprehensible. But also on a strategic partner level, we need partners who can bring us deal flow, right? We need partners who can bring us both organic projects to list, also any projects in any kind of venture pipeline. All need to start launching on Sushi and really participating and activating our ecosystem. On another hand, that means that since we already have kind of the mission to consolidate all traditional finance features in a decentralized way and make and empower projects to access those features easily, we've also had to build a lot of infrastructure. We've also had to build a lot of processes around how projects launch, how projects can grow, etc. And this ultimately leads into setting standards, right? So on a basic level, um, you know, DeFi is very undefined, right? Very new, probably, arguably two years at most. And Sushi and our ecosystem has really allowed us to begin to define the standards of what launching on DeFi means, right? Launching, growing, incentivizing, functioning in the DeFi ecosystem. What does this all mean, and can we define standards? And ultimately, standards leads to addressing regulatory concerns, because with standards we can ensure basically some kind of consumer and user protections, and this starts to address and touch upon regulatory concerns and also long-term like growth into non-DeFi sectors. So basically, what strategic comes down to, and this will all be summarized in the post that I'll be making in the forum, is strategic really comes down to can our partners bring in strong deal flow for us to grow our ecosystem, to like leverage all of these comprehensive features that we're coming out with? Can partners provide legal, product, and growth assistance in defining these standards? So what we're really looking for and what we're really seeing, right, are from a VC side of things, right? There are some VCs that are more traditional, more established, and they've had the experience of seeing new technologies and defining the standards for those technologies. And we want people who have experience with that, right? Because DeFi is very new, and now we have the unique opportunity to really set standards. And on another level, I think the community has brought up great points that venture capital firms might be in the correct position in order to have that experience, but that doesn't mean that experience is exclusive to them, right? There's various other firms, various other entities that have a lot of experience with these kind of strategic objectives, and we're willing to also engage with them as well, and make this opportunity not only open for venture capital funds and also these what we would define as angel investors or more specialized firms, but also for the community as well, right? Because that's been a big ask. And then also, as an upcoming objective, right? Just normal growth operations are necessary, right? Strategic partners, can also, strategic partners with strong experience in, treasury diversification, treasury management, are also at the top of our list, because at the end of the day, we're growing at such a rapid pace, and lots of operational items need to be plugged up. But I guess that's generally the definition of strategic on how it relates to the immediate needs of sushi today, and like where we're going in our growth trajectory. What we need to start doing is basically identifying partners, and I think we've identified a few, through the whole, through the past week, on who are really committed, right, to not only engaging us consistently, but also engaging the community consistently, but also, satisfying kind of these strategic objectives. So I think going forward, any VC, right, or any firm, right, because as I said, I don't think any of these strategic skills are exclusive to venture capital firms. They will all post, 2 to 3 sentences of the specific strategic value they bring within this larger context that I've just described. So that's really the types of firms we're looking for. And I'm happy to take any questions as to this definition of strategic and how it relates to, sushi now and sushi, in 2 quarters and 3 quarters, in 2 years and 3 years.
So just to summarize all of that, kind of in a condensed form here, looking for strategic being bringing organic projects organic projects and like strong deal flow, helping with regulatory concerns and standards like legal products and growth, and like even operational assistance. That kind of covers most of it, or anything else that you want to add to that?
I think that generally covers the immediate needs. Rachel's happy to expand.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Loved what Okase had to say, and I agree everything with what he said. One thing I would add on to it would probably be branding and awareness building. I think these VCs has been established for decades almost, right? Like Lightspeed and some of the other VCs we've been talking to that are in the traditional space. They have their investment arm, operational arm, as well as legal arms reaching beyond DeFi, and they have a very established presence in and outside of crypto. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to build that awareness that sushi it has evolved beyond an AMM, and we're reaching to an ecosystem and reaching to an audience that's in and outside of the DeFi space. And we definitely need partners like this who's very established in and outside of crypto to really build that brand for us. So I would say that's also a consideration for us, who has a very reputable branding to help us establish this root grass.
Yeah, and I think to follow up on that, we've been posting this pretty infrequently, and it's also on the landing page, right? Which is, Sushi, the mission statement is welcome home to DeFi. Start your home here. I think that means a couple different things. Welcome home to DeFi means that, all these different financial primitives, all these different financial features that you see in traditional finance, we want to apply in a decentralized manner. And as you've seen, all the rapid features that we've been pushing out are really aligned with this goal of unlocking, financial tools and financial primitives for any kind of token and project. And then the second part that comes in is like start your home here. I think, with the inception of yield farms, right, we've definitely seen, we've definitely seen projects be we've seen how Sushi gives projects the ability to grow, and we're tightening up that aspect, rapidly. Whereas, we're going to come out with token specific pages, token administration pages, in order to really make Sushi the best place to launch best place to manage and best place to manage incentives, manage liquidity, and every project in DeFi should be using Sushi kind of as like a management platform to kind of unlock all of this financial availability, right? Swapping, lending, limit orders, hedging, borrowing, uh, the list goes on and on. So this is really the mission statement, right, for Sushi going forward, and the strategy kind of aligns around that, right? And as Rachel said, what we're also looking for in partners is that, growing our exposure, right? Because we want to make DeFi the home for everybody, right? Not just DeFi natives. We want to grow into more traditional markets. We want to grow into retail markets, et cetera. And we've only begun to scratch the surface of that. So as I said, the preface, right? We're at an inflection point, and this inflection point will kind of define where Sushi is going to be in the next year, right? In the next 2 years, the next 3 years.
Perfect. One other thing I wanted to mention, and I see that there's some questions coming in. If you have any text questions, we've got the AMA text questions channel. We can maybe, Omakase and Rachel, if you want to open that up as well, we can maybe answer some of the things that are being asked there.
Sure. Let's answer questions, and then I guess we can provide some more guidance as to what this week specifically will look like in some timelines. Because I know people are eager for some, direction, given what I feel is the somewhat of a fragmentation of focus. So, happy to tighten that up and provide visibility into like where we're going, what direction we're heading, etc.
Anyone that has questions, feel free to please raise your hand at the bottom of the Discord screen there, and we can get you up to ask questions. We want this to be open and inclusive, so please.
I was hitting my wrong push to talk button. I actually had a question about the amount that is being
Sure.
raised, and sort of where that number is coming from and how that thought process has played out.
Sure. I think the initial proposal, I think I think the numbers were wrong on it. It was written at a different time and then published without like updated guidance. Was using USD pricing as opposed to Sushi pricing, etc. I think generally, and I think the community is very aligned with this. 60 million is probably much too high. That's too significant a portion of our treasury. Because the purposes right now are to diversify and also satisfy kind of hitting our run rate. I think I think many have pointed out that 20 to 25 million is more appropriate and does satisfy kind of some internal plans that we have for run rate, hiring, human resources, infrastructure, growth. And also, at the end of the day, right, treasury diversification and somewhat active management with partners and with other strategic firms can really help us use the amounts that are raised kind of into a sword and a shield, right? Because having USDC in the treasury is definitely a good hedging mechanism, and also just operationally is something that needs to be done in order to ensure that we can satisfy both our run rate and also continuously purchase Sushi, right, if we feel that Sushi is undervalued. And having USDC is a great mechanism for that. And I'm sure there will be subsequent discussions with the community and also with our different strategic partners on how we can achieve operational treasury management, because that's definitely a topic that I don't think lots of DAOs have touched on specifically, and everybody's just sitting on a bunch of native tokens and not actually putting them to use. So that's definitely at the top of mind for us as well.
Yeah, so add on to that, I think for the structure of the deal, right, how much we're raising, regardless of how much we're raising, we want to keep it fair, both for the VCs and the community. I think there has been sentiment spreading that this deal's not fair. So with all the comments that we've seen and accumulated, I think ultimately with the revision, we want to keep it fair, either a 50-50, right? Or some kind of deal structure that. So I think going forward, like this AMA and proceeding to some of the more. So probably by the end of today, we might post something in the forum, and we would love to see some comments following that, and we will consolidate all of your guys' ideas and ultimately come up with a fair structure that's benefiting equally for the VCs and the community.
Right. And I guess to follow up on that point, right, as I specified, strategic value can be derived not only just from a venture capital firm specifically. I think they're well positioned to derive some of the strategic value that we're looking for. But what will probably happen is that we'll see a smaller group of really committed partners. And I think the past week has really been a test. Been almost a walk through fire for like who is willing to stick with us and who's not, and who's only willing to stick around for discounts, right? I think the tree has been shook and we've seen what has fallen out. And essentially, I guess moving forward, right, it'll be a smaller group of like committed partners, and also allocation for what the community suggested would be like smaller, highly dedicated, highly motivated firms, if not angel investors. And then, as Rachel pointed out, we're actually internally, core team, we're very opposed to this like VCs get a special deal that no one else can access. So we'd also like to see basically whatever deal terms that are come up that are available to VCs, our community can access as well. So exact same deal terms, equal 50-50. Yeah.
Yes, you're suggesting a 50-50. So whatever it is out of the whatever number is chosen from the treasury, that it would be 50% to VCs and 50% to the community.
Yep. So for the community part, it'll be done via Miso, right?
Right.
Leveraging our own platform, which is, I think, unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think ultimately we want to keep it fair. Yeah.
How would we like for VCs that have already participated in the other 50%? Is there a way to kind of keep them out of it, or is it just kind of a trust situation, or just to ensure that there's fairness for the community?
Actually, that's a great question. I think how it would function is just actually that's a great question. Looking forward to any feedback regarding solutions around that. I think I think at the end of the day, it would just be a trust mechanism. Just they're not allowed to participate in the Miso offering. If there's any suggestions on how to more formally mitigate that, I'm all ears. But that's a great question.
Do we want to bring some people up if anybody wants to raise their hand, or we can start going through the text questions that we have there too?
Yeah, we do have one hand
A couple hands
raised. Looks like a lot of people are raising their hands now.
Nice.
Hey, Goat Guy, is your microphone working?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
There you
sounds
are.
perfect.
So my question is, say you do the 50% for the VCs, right? And they get it at like a flat amount. But like when you do the miso raise, the price of sushi will probably drop after that, right? So we wouldn't like you could just buy it on the open market for just as cheap.
I think whatever whatever terms are set with the VCs would be definitely at spot. I see what you're saying about any changes in price for miso. So I think that's probably just a matter of coordination, right? That the term sheet is probably will be executed in conjunction with a miso auction as well. So I think that's one way to mitigate it. You just whatever spot that the VCs are entering is coincided with the launch of the miso auction, and this
Okay.
happens in tandem. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that was my only question. Thanks.
Cool. Good question. Thank you.
And so oh, sorry, I might have hit my mic there. Have we covered? I don't think we've talked about this yet. But what is sort of what you're expecting for a pricing scheme? Is it just going to be the market price?
Right. So I think generally based on the feedback from community, right, and some internal thoughts as well, and it would be spot price. If people want to include kind of like a 30-day TWAP pricing, that's also open for discussion. But it would be spot or 30-day TWAP, and the same price would be applied to the miso auction as well, and there is no discount, right? So generally, we think there's been very little appetite for discounts, and I do think that lots of community members and bring up very good feedback that sushi is like a very liquid asset. There should really be no reason for discount other than whatever unrealized yields for holding sushi and not being able to stake it into X sushi during the lockup period, right? But regardless of that, I think Lightspeed has also brought up in AMAs and also in the forum that traditional VCs are not entirely interested in yield per se. So I think most would be fine settling this in sushi. And this also reduces a lot of complexities and prevents the dilution of existing X sushi holders, which works out for everybody, right? Existing X sushi holders don't want to be diluted, and VCs, it's probably more simpler for them to just hold sushi, right? Do the deal in terms of sushi. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. But and there will be a time locked or a vesting schedule on it, or is that
I think
gone as
generally
well?
as this week evolves, we'll figure out specifics. But yes, there will be a time lock. We're looking at something at a 2-year horizon, and we're also, I think, everything that's being said, equally applies to community as well. We're also thinking, I think there's, in subsequent AMA sessions this week, we'll probably discuss alternatives. But generally, I feel the most streamlined option, and the most comprehensive kind of deal that kind of satisfies both community and also VCs and etc. and other interested parties are spot with a lockup or 30-day TWAP with a lockup, and then kind of a European option set at a certain strike price with a 2-year expiry. So this the pricing of this option is to be determined. I think generally something like a strike price of 16 to 17 is probably in the range of, what would be appropriate. And this would be kind of a 2-to-1 option. So basically, if you're participating in the round, right? VC, angel, community, etc. Whatever you invest, 50% of that will be an additional 50% of that will be accessible at like an option with a, for example, strike price at 16. And this option will have a 2-year expiry. And I think this then aligns all incentives, right? Which is basically this option expires worthless, if Sushi doesn't hit the targeted strike price. So everybody's aligned to ensuring that, both the ecosystem and tokenomics and etc. flourish to the degree where Sushi can hit this like targeted strike price. I think generally this aligns what everybody's looking for, what the community is looking for, right? I don't think discounts are warranted, and generally the community doesn't think discounts are warranted either. But for all participants, right, if we're all working together, right, to ensure the growth of Sushi, then ultimately, the incentive should be aligned with growth, right? And so Sushi can grow to the strike price that's to be determined on this option, then that aligns all parties and making sure that we all get there together. Generally, that's what we're thinking for a very streamlined and kind of uncomplicated proposal. I know there are different proposals out there that are proposing somewhat more complex structures, if not, new protocol designs. And I think those are interesting, and Core definitely supports the future development of those. But I don't think, any of those are ready to handle the specifics of this raise today, right? And a lot of things go into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that we can
contract auditing, etc. Right? Like
yeah.
To be fair, none of these are like ready for game time, right? But we're super interested in like making these happen for subsequent rounds or like building an ecosystem around that. But generally, that's what we feel is probably the most simplest proposal that aligns all participants. Happy to take questions.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll get into like throughout the week too as we bring on different parties and projects and everything. Let's maybe open it up here to C Font Cripple there, please. Yeah, if you don't mind. You've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
You bet.
Mm-hmm.
So the question I had basically was how does this impact the future Sushi rewards for, I guess, farming and also Sushi holders? If obviously a portion of the Sushi is being locked away for a certain amount of time, does that involve you guys just purchasing back Sushi to continue rewards, or how does that impact rewards long term?
So right now rewards, there's an emission schedule, right? Sushi's constantly being minted and sent to the reward pools. A portion of those rewards are always earmarked for the treasury. And this treasury just has a standing balance. So whatever deal size that's determined this week, that doesn't affect future rewards. Because the treasury already has an outstanding balance based off of all the emissions that we've accrued so far. The development treasury is 9% of all emissions, and right now there will eventually be max of 250 million Sushi. In the forum posts that I'm about to make, I kind of break down how much of the treasury is available today, and that number is aligned with any raise amount.
Okay. I also wanted to just ask how you guys would specifically, or I guess how you would have the VCs address, what they have to offer. And I know you did mention that, making it a little bit more specific to,
Mhm.
what can they offer the sushi community? What can they offer sushi as a project? Like, for example, I think Lightspeed has been, just one that I thought is participating, well and sort of going back and forth with the community. And like they have a partnership with Epic Games, which I think would be really cool.
Yeah.
If obviously to get kind of involved with Sushi Swap, in-game items, swapping, trading, there's a lot of ways that can go in the future. So I think that's a huge partnership that's potential. So just things like that they can highlight, I think, are important for people to look at when deciding which ones make sense. So
That's just to jump in here too. Like we will be having certain VCs on over the week, and we'll have lines of questions, and that being, of course, one of the main things as well. Like the value add. That's been a constant question or question throughout everything. So hopefully we can get more specifics on that and have that all outlined ahead of time.
Right. And we'll also, I guess, we'll also be asking every VC to post 2 to 3 sentences on like what they will bring, and we'll consolidate all this information into kind of like a summary. And this will just be a basic requirement. And as Magic Turtle said, AMAs to pick the brains of these VCs and what they can offer sushi and sushi community. And at the end of the day, I think consistency is key. You really know from somebody who's been consistently engaged that the opportunities that they're going to offer you later on are like there. It's very clear, right? Just through this whole forum, like who the most consistent actors are, who the most engaged actors are, and these, maybe at the end of the day, right? No entity can 100% promise something, right? Like, Epic Games is awesome. I don't know if Lightspeed can guarantee with 100% certainty that we're going to do a partnership, but it does make me very confident that Lightspeed is going to bring lots of opportunities to us because of just the consistency of their engagement. So I don't know if that satisfies your question, but generally that's how I see. Like, it's kind of a smell test in many ways. You can just go on the forum and you can see who's like very consistent. And these are partners that we want to consistently engage with, and who will continue to bring us new opportunities as we engage with them. Right.
Yep. And adding on to that, over the course of this week, we obviously today will post what strategic will mean to us, as we set in today's AMA, but also a written post on the proposal. Based on those points we list, we would like to see 2 to 3 answers on every single VC on what they think they can provide on the points that we think will be strategic to us. And some of the VCs that have been engaging very heavily with us over the course of last month, they call us every day, they check in on us, and they propose ideas in many different aspects and offerings, right? And those VCs like Lightspeed, I'm very engaged with Amy herself, so I can confidently validate that like VCs like Lightspeed will absolutely be great, wonderful partners going forward, just at many different levels. So I would say over the course of this week, I think the core team will also post some sort of our thoughts on what the list will be, on the 3 to 5 VCs in the list will be, and why we think they are strategic to us as well.
I do want to ask. I don't know if this. I mean, I don't think this is really anything because this is going to be in the document. But did Pantera drop out of the raise? And if so, why? What was the reason? Because I could think of like a totally innocent reason of just the offering size isn't large enough. Then I could also think of a reason where like they all of a sudden got like cold feet for some reason because of the community or something like that. But I don't know. I was just curious.
Yeah, so I think Pantera has their own business to run, right? They have their own portfolio management hedging risks of structure to manage. I'm not 100% sure they're withdrawing or not, but I think even though if they're not on the list, we'll still continue the collaboration going forward. And even before engaging on this race, Pantera has always been big sushi holders and collaborators on different terms. So I would say this race is not a make or kill deal of our relationship with VCs, but rather we pick and choose, and the community picks and choose, right, who strategic VCs we should on board. But at the same time, the 20 VCs on the list will still be our collaborators on the very long term to build what our mission is. So on that front, I would confirm with Pantera this week. It's not 100%, but I'll definitely confirm.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds good. But we also have NU. It's been waiting. Just sent your request, NU, if you're there.
NU.
I think there's also Goat.
NU, if you
Oh,
can
yes.
hear us, we've given you the request to speak. You got something? Oh,
Hello?
There we are.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for holding this AMA. I have a question. So there, I just recently heard about this proposal, and as I'm reading through the forum, a couple of things. Just curious, given such a diverse set of opinions been expressed, what is a process by which the group decides what is the right proposal to go forth with, and also how would you go put it up for the vote of the community, or is there a vote planned? And also, where do I access the list of VCs and what contributions, or I guess what comments and feedbacks and they're providing in terms of how they can add value?
Right. So this will be described in the forum post, but we're consolidating all this information to make it very accessible. From everybody's proposals, there's been various proposals, and also some proposals are more like an introductory and what we can, what the VCs plan to provide for the community. So all this information will be consolidated. There's some community members currently working on this initiative right now, because as you mentioned, right, a lot of this is spread out all over the place, both on Twitter and also on the forum, etc. So consolidation is going to be one of the next steps to get all the information in one place so everybody can see it. In terms of how generally governance and proposals operate, I guess at Sushi, anybody can post to the forum. The forum is meant for discovery and discussion. So nothing in the forum is binding until it's passed off to a snapshot vote, right? I would say, we're very grateful to the community and also participants in this recent discussion to help refine, the proposal. And that's basically the strength of network effects, the strength of the community. That every proposal is usually a bad idea in the beginning, right? Any idea that doesn't go through kind of some group validation is probably a bad idea. And the whole point of the forum is to make bad ideas into good ideas, right? So that's basically the process. I don't know if that answers your question directly, or if you had more specifics regarding the process.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I'm just trying to get a sense for, what are some of the tangible things, such as, is there a timeline that you're acting on? Is there a deadline for certain things to happen? Because I think, not only for the community, but also for the VCs on their side, they would probably would like to understand, what timelines they're working with.
Oh,
or just the
definitely.
overall process, because this whole thing is, at least, from my perspective, I mean, I'm a sushi holder and everything, but I haven't really been paying attention to the forums, and I haven't really been reading up on stuff, except, a friend of mine alerted me of this event today. And I'm just trying to, get a sense for what exactly is a process, because I would assume, if I'm feeling that way, many other people in this audience are also feeling the same similar way, in the sense that everyone's, chiming in, everyone's bitching, moaning, and, speaking 360 degrees, but there is, but probably more as important as that is just trying to understand what is the process by which we are operating towards.
Definitely. We're going to release a timeline in the forum. So this will all come in that forum post timeline. Expectations for what how we're going to approach these discussions. Also, as Magic Turtle and Tangle have mentioned, we're going to have an AMA every day this week, and it's going to include different actors and different proposals as we discuss, and also add some specificity to what's been said. I think this initial call today is to kind of set some direction, right? Because right now, as you said, the discussion is everywhere. There's lots of fragmentation, and so the purpose of this call is to kind of realign the community as to where this discussion is heading, and provide visibility and clarity into what the timelines are, et cetera, and how these AMAs will work, the schedule of these AMAs, and Magic Turtle and Tangle will release, a preliminary schedule of like who's set to speak on which date. We're currently figuring out some final scheduling items with all participants, because it's, at the end of the day, like herding cats. But we're getting close, and all of these will, be provided. Generally, what we're thinking is, we're going to basically go through all these actors, AMA, come up with a revised proposal, which I kind of loosely outlined, and have discussions around these, continued refinement, and then within a week and a half, after the appropriate discussion, then we can put this up to a snapshot vote. I think, as I've mentioned on Twitter and here and other places, it's a really big week for sushi. We have this going on. We also have ETHCC. We also have, Trident, our secret product that's also, being revealed, etc. So, if there's any time to be engaged in the community, this is definitely the week for sure.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to figure out, you still haven't really answered my question, which maybe I guess I'll wait for the post AMA notes. Is what is the
I just
process
happened
by
to
which?
talk about the timeline. So timeline-wise, we want to get everything together and in conclusion within 1 to 2 weeks. So some of the actionable items, next step, first of all, is we want to make a post on the forum, right, to consolidate all of the ideas we have and all of the responses we want to clarify to the community. And at the same time, we're engaging with some of the VCs and shortlisted VCs to come up with a reasonable and agreeable term so that all of our quote unquote lead investors will agree on. And next step is we actually put out a new revised proposal to the community for everyone to vote on, just like how we did in the first one, right? And that hopefully will all be done within this week. And today we'll also release a very specific timeline. Say Tuesday we're going to do this, Thursday we're going to do that, as well on the forum. Hopefully that answers your question, and if anything, I think the forum would actually answer it more clearly.
No, thanks. I'm actually reading through the forum as we speak right now. Did you say that some of the VCs have responded in the forum?
Yeah, so Lightspeed, right, Pantera, Arca, they have all responded very passionately and really appreciate their responses as well. And
is there an easy way to search for their responses?
Yeah, if you can just type in
we'll be consolidating. We'll be consolidating all this information as well. But worst case, you just have to scroll through everything.
Or Control F, Apple F. Use the find tool as well. That'll help you immensely.
In lieu of
Thanks.
the summary document, I would actually highly recommend people to. It's a little bit painful, but to go through and try to read the entire forum thread. It's a lot of really insightful discussion and back
Definitely.
and forth going on in there.
But we will put together a summarized form here. I know everyone's very busy, and especially in this space.
Yeah.
So we'll do our best to put that forward, and know that like they were saying here, in the next week here or this week, hopefully have that ready to rock, and having a revised proposal as well to kind of consolidate our new direction. I think that'll help everyone kind of vote from there and get a better temperature check from the community.
Great. Thanks very much.
And I see Jason asking about success tokens from UMA.
Yeah, I think we're gonna.
I'm not sure like what the sentiment is on that.
We're gonna have UMA this week. They're looking to speak as well, so they might be on here. We'll release all of that as we were kind of talking about the schedule and whatnot. So
Yeah, I think generally, from our perspective, UMA and other related proposals are definitely interesting. But as I said, it comes down to whether it's like ready for game time, and we're pretty committed in helping further develop those products. But it might be the case that they're somewhat too complex for the for understanding kind of the current structure. And as I mentioned before, a revised proposal will most likely be spot or 30-day TWAP, no discount, and then with an option at a 2-year expiry and strike price to be determined. I think that's a very simple model that really aligns all the players, right? And aligns both community participants and VC and other angel or other entities that are participating to really grow sushi and drive sushi to basically whatever that strike price that's to be determined.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you, Omakase.
do we want to go through the text questions a bit here? I don't know if there's
Let's do that.
Much that needs to maybe just catch up there. Let's see.
And there will be forums all week. I don't really know what you mean by plowing through and do it. The entire point of the forums is to include the community in the discussions and engagement with the funds involved who are interested as much as possible.
And I like how Makase said, like, every proposal is a bad proposal until it gets refined. So the first thing that comes up isn't always, hey, if this was delivered poorly or whatever kind of proposal comes on here, doesn't mean that idea has to get shot down right away. And that's the beautiful form of community and being able to have a forum to grow and blossom with this kind of stuff.
Happy to take any questions. If anything seems uncertain to anyone, just say it. That's the whole point of this week, to provide like hyper clarity and hyper accessibility to any questions or concerns the community might have, or any ideas. Yeah.
I also had further questions about how the raised funds would be managed. Would like the stable coins be put into like the sushi house? Would it be on its own separate sort of treasury account, or how would the management side of that work after the raise?
Sure. I think generally it would go into the treasury. Also subject to multi-sig. As we move towards probably more active and like managed treasury use, it could potentially go into like another multi-sig operational type multi-sig similar to Sushi House. And also, since the operational multi-sig has a certain run rate that we need to hit, then amounts will be transferred to, the operational multi-sig, to according to schedule. But generally, I think it would stay in the treasury multi-sig. And then if there's any specific use cases for it, Sushi House and run rate would be satisfied in ops.
Gotcha. And Moxie, I don't know if you want to just try to disconnect and reconnect real quick. There's seems to be some like static that's like coming in and out. I don't know if that will help it, but
Maybe it's just your background if
know.
it's noisy, but
Oh, here, sorry. I will. Let me try this. Maybe I need to reset my earplug.
and just a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand.
also running through here, it's looking at this 50-50 raise here with saying so a small number of VCs can scoop up huge numbers and swamp any future governance centralization, and the entirety of the community, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, can fight over the other 50%. I guess just a quick question about the 50% stuff, like the community that is like with the community portion of this at 50-50. They would still be, or anyone who participates in that is still subject to the vesting period as well, and has the same conditions as the other 50%. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and then
Also, same access to the options, etc. Yeah.
right. So,
Yeah,
I guess like
is it?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tangle.
Just gonna keep kind of going on that with like the governance and the centralization part. I don't know how to really speak to that. I mean,
I think generally, I don't think it'll become that centralized. The raise amount is actually a quite small portion of all sushi currently in circulation. So I think in terms of centralization, I don't really see any risk of that. And at the end of the day, since it's being offset by an equal community offering, that should allay any concerns that too much voting power is being consolidated into into VCs, etc. And again, the deal size I don't think is large enough to make a significant impact on centralizing the X issue.
And to add on to that, first of all, the deals is incredibly small compared to some of the other proposals we've seen out there. Second, we're seeing that 3 out of 5 of the VCs we're hoping on board will at least be traditional VCs who absolutely don't hold any sushi so far. So we're literally onboarding them instead of VCs who already hold large amount, right? So I don't see that as a problem, but rather it's an opportunity for us to actually engage with traditional firms, and we serve as an entity and a platform to onboard traditional firms to DeFi. So, yep,
Yeah,
I think
definitely it's going to be an interesting experience to expose DeFi to kind of these more traditional players, right? Because that's how we not only grow sushi but grow DeFi for everyone, right? Participation in governance is definitely going to be new for some players, but necessary if we want this entire ecosystem to grow.
And on the 50-50, how will that be set up? Will the venture capital partners we choose just be limited in the amount that they could buy up to matching whatever the community has purchased? Or like how do you force a 50-50 if maybe one side of it doesn't like the demand doesn't equal on both sides.
Yeah, so say we're raising at a 20, right? So then 10 will be for VCs, the other 10 will be for the community. And the 10 that's for VC is split between, say, 3 to 5 VCs, and we will ultimately have to. That's our core team's job as well, is to figure out, right, their allocation. And then the other 10 for the community will be auctioned through Miso, and either it'll be a crowd sale or an auction, a batch auction, for the auction piece. So hopefully that answers your questions regarding how we split.
So when you say an auction, are you talking about like a Dutch auction?
So we're exploring either batch or crowd sale. I think Dutch. I don't think Dutch mechanism is the perfect case for this round.
I agree. It's just the only one that I could think of. Okay.
Also, just want to mention anybody that's been in the room here for 10 minutes, you should have a nice message from Sushi Pope to offer you a special edition Phantom Troupe #1 Sushi Pope. So if you see that, you can go ahead and claim that. And any questions, reach out, but pretty straightforward. Do we want to bring, let's see, we've got a couple, Tushru, do you want to come up here? That's good. There we are.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for holding this AMA. I wanted to ask about the separate blocks between the VC allocation and the community allocation. It just seems like it's a little bit unfair that for the community allocation, there would be a ton of people kind of just bidding against each other, whereas there's only 2 or 3 players on the VC side that would be setting prices. And I would imagine that the community would be paying a premium for the community block as opposed to the VC block.
Yeah, so for the auction piece, even if we're thinking about a batch auction, it will be on a pro rata basis at a minimum raise of 10 mil. So if it exceeds 10 mil, then it sets a price, a natural price discovery mechanism. So ultimately, if with a batch auction mechanism, it'll still be on a pro rata basis, first come, first serve basis. I know this actually, while we have this AMA is because we want to learn whether if this 50-50 split is also fair. But ultimately, we want to keep it fair in terms of the deal structure, and we're happy to take any suggestions that you guys will have in terms of making it even more fair.
Do you consider just offering one unified block for VCs and the community?
So do you mean that every single VC on the 10 mil allocation will be an exact same deals allocation, or?
So, for example, let's say you're offering 20 million from the treasury. Have you considered just not segregating the blocks and just having everyone compete on the same terms?
So I would say if the community ultimately thinks that a 50-50 split is not a fair term for the community, we will think about how we ultimately will revise the community portion. But so far, we are thinking of having the same deal structure for both the community and VC. Yeah.
Just to kind of jump in there, just as a quick thought, by batching everything together, I think that kind of goes away from what the original point of this was to align incentives with strategic partners. And if a strategic partner didn't get, I guess, what was originally kind of their thoughts, then things could fall through, and it ends up being a bit of a mismatch, I think, on what we were trying to do here. That's just a quick observation, just kind of out of the past 2 minutes here of this conversation, but just something I wanted to add in there, and why it could be disadvantage. It could be a disadvantage to going that route.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I'm not exactly. Yeah, I don't have a solution as to how you can get your strategic investors. It's just from my standpoint as an individual investor, it seems kind of unfair that you would have these segregated blocks where there's unequal competition um, between the VCs, and there's the competition between the community, which has many more players. But thanks for answering my question.
I think the intention is for both sides to get the same offering.
That is true. My only concern is,
oh, go ahead.
sorry. It's true that both sides would get the same offering. It's only on the community side there would be many more players competing for a smaller. I mean, for that slice of pie. Whereas on the VC side, there would, I guess, be only 2 or 3 players competing for that slice of pie.
Well,
Yeah.
there could be more players competing for those 2 to 3 slots. Those
Yep,
2 to 3
so-
VC slots.
So to answer that question, for VCs that we choose ultimately to be the 2 to 3, they actually we actually had to cut through the 20, right? And the 20 we actually had to cut through 40, and then ultimately we choose that 2 to 3, and then after they are onboarded as quote unquote strategic partners, we do expect them to engage with us at many different levels, from operations to product to legal to finance. And everything, every aspect that we will need. So hopefully, in the end, that community also think that the VCs that we choose will also be beneficial to the community, right? Not just to the core team.
And I'm sorry, I'm kind of hogging the question. So if anyone else has other questions, please let me know. But I also had an additional question regarding the potential VC partners that you're evaluating. Have they indicated that they wouldn't provide strategic help to the Sushi team if they did not have the allocation for this upcoming block sale?
I think that's a good question. And this is why I've prefaced by saying that strategic value is not only exclusive to VCs, right? There are different types of firms and different types of players. And currently, as Rachel has mentioned earlier, there are just generally large sushi holders, right, that we engage with on, a daily basis, who also engage in our community. And regardless of this raise, those relationships will continue, right? And people should continue to provide strategic value. I think the purpose of this raise, though, right, is to identify some, key partners, and also, if they're buying at spot, right, then it means all incentives are aligned, right? If I go to someone right now and I say, "Hey, are you willing to help me?" and they have no skin in the game to help me, then whatever they say regarding potential alignment, etc., or regarding as you said, willing to help, at the end of the day, comes down to there's nothing to verify that, right? Under this structure, right? VCs or whatever other entities have skin in the game, right? They're locked up with Sushi and with large check sizes. And this, keeps everybody aligned. I think, but though generally you do pose a good question, right? Are there people that are willing to engage with us without participating around? I think yes, there are many, right? But for the ones that we really want to engage with, right, we need to make sure all the incentives are aligned, right? We need to make sure that they actually have skin in the game and hold, significant amounts of sushi, because our success is their success. Their unwillingness to help us is also, will result in, ultimately their failure as well, right? So it's all about, alignment and how we can keep all these things moving towards the right direction. I don't know if this satisfies your question, but, happy to discuss on these topics further. I think, and don't be afraid that you're hogging time. I think all your questions are great. These definitely need to be discussed.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I think probably from my standpoint, I'd love to understand a little bit more about the block sale and how we can make it as equitable between the large strategic partner investors and the community. Because I think one of the great things about DeFi and the Sushi project in general is that it's been a very good engagement between community and investors, and I hope we were able to continue that same tradition.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to discussing solutions regarding this.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tusher. I don't know how to say their name, but somebody has Chinese characters. I hate to assume, but it might be a bot. Bringing up Bunk Bach.
Hey, so I'm just trying to better understand the last question that was being posed. So I completely agree with and understand the notion of wanting to keep as level of a playing field as possible between strategic partners and larger community. But if the number of assets available are the same, you're not really having an inequity in ability to claim those assets. I mean, we're talking about presumably strategic partner VCs with a much larger amount of capital at their disposal who are going to be competing against each other relative to the larger community. And unless if you were, as an independent, a significant whale in the space, I just don't know that you actually have any less of like an equal opportunity than they would. And this is coming from an individual. I'm not involved in any of the VC or the VC world at all.
Right, and that's, I guess, generally that's the motivation for us to separate these two things, because, as you just said, if we put it all in kind of one offering, then maybe, smaller investors would be outcompeted, right? Because they just
it actually becomes less equitable to do that.
Right.
Because now you have VCs competing with the grand community, which is just not realistic. I actually am absolutely taking the side of you all here that makes a lot more sense if the goal here is equity of opportunity, equality of opportunity, rather.
Definitely, and that is the goal, and we're happy to discuss what process makes the most sense to achieve the equality of opportunity across all of our community, VC, other entities, community members, smaller holders, larger holders, together.
I'm trying to understand as well, and I'd love to hear from other people in the community what their concerns truly are. At this point, I understand not wanting individual players to essentially take something that's largely decentralized and find a way to make it pseudo-centralized because of a huge stake in the project. But if they're buying an asset at a discount and having a long lockup period, and you believe that that asset is going to be worth significantly more than that, or the project as a whole will be further developed within that period of time, what is it that people are worried about exactly? And that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. Because if they don't believe that the project's going to be significantly more valuable in 18 months, 20 months, whatever it is, than a 20 to 30% discount that VCs might be buying this asset at, then why are you buying it at all? That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around, and I would love to hear from other community members because I just don't understand.
And that 20 to 30, I think that's not really where we aren't discussing that anymore. It's more on the spot or the TWAP, 30-day TWAP, I think. So that's already out as well. So
yeah, I guess the general point still stands, and sorry for that miscommunication. But I would just love to understand what people's real concerns are.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that too. With when we do have partners that are looking to strategically help us, and potentially help push forward the quote unquote future of France here, they're definitely more influential than something that I can do, for example. So looking into these kind of strategic partnerships is very interesting to me, and especially with the growth in the future ahead. I am with everyone here on saying, what are the deliverables essentially, or what can they do, and how to actually create these promises. I definitely think that those are all valid questions, and I'm happy to see them coming up here, and hopefully we can get through a bunch of that this week too.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Punk Rock. Gonna bring up Jason.
Sorry, I forgot to press accept.
No, you're all good.
Thanks. Yeah, just to his point, and this is going to kind of build upon what Tangle was saying, is that I think, if you look at Uniswap, for instance, the whole Harvard thing, or where they raised it and then they dropped the token, or I think there's just kind of a general sort of misunderstanding of how's it going to help. And I think that the team between now and the last meeting, Omakase really kind of brought it together, kind of outlining what is success or what is the future of sushi, and defining those sort of success, defining the sort of KPIs essentially to mark against and to have the VCs fit within that framework. I think the ultimate fear is that these VCs come in, buy a token, and then they can ultimately just drop it like a hot rock, right? And so I think ultimately the golden sort of trifecta will be to find a VC that not only puts money behind Sushi, but like to what Rachel was saying, is help them with legal, help them with regulatory, help them with some of the protocol, help them with advertising and marketing and getting it out there and increasing the user base and increasing the way that the protocol is used is really, really key, because it seems apparent that they are going to be far more than just an AMM, right? And they need somebody who's going to be cohesive and in a symbiotic relationship, as opposed to somebody that just comes in and throws money at them and then just dips. And that's kind of like the reality of the situation right now. Is if you read crypto news, it's always VCs are interested. They're interested in gains, they're interested in yields, they're interested in whatever X, Y, and Z token. And I think the team is doing a really good job of trying to really distill down the list and say which ones are really going to be the most helpful, that is in the same line of thought of what Sushi defines as success. So that's all I wanted to say. I think the fear is no value added, dumping of the token, and just basically worthless. Like, okay, great, you bought some sushi, thanks, sort of deal. That's all.
Sushi swap. Gotta have some of that sushi swap.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, cool call out on the news today, or was that today or yesterday? I don't even know when it was, but
It was today, this morning.
yeah, that's wild. But and then also congratulations to BlackRock, by the way.
I think it was Grayscale, right?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Grayscale, yeah. Well, good news is that tomorrow, around 3:45, we'll also have a Twitter AMA with Grayscale tomorrow. So make sure to attend as well over there. But generally, I really appreciate Jason's comment on focusing on the product, right? Focusing on the protocol development, and I think that's actually 90% of why we raised this round. The resources, right? Resources for the core team, but
Rachel,
also resources for the community.
You cut out for like 3 seconds.
Okay, sorry. I don't know where I got cut off at, but generally really appreciate Jason's comment here that the majority of the focus of this raise is on a protocol development level instead of a raise, instead of an actual raise, needing money raise, right? So hopefully we can think about how we develop this protocol in a more capital efficient way and a resource optimized way with these VCs, very, very short listed VCs. So, yep.
Yeah, definitely. No, I just want to say good job to the team, and I think you guys are taking all the right steps, engaging with the community in the right way. Yeah, so just good job overall. That's all.
Thanks for that, Jason.
So I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we start maybe wrapping it up? We've been here for almost an hour and a half. Maybe leave like 10, 15 minutes for additional questions.
Yeah, I think we've covered a ton here today. And again, the point of today was just to get everybody together and deliver some, kind of where we're at and some better ideas here. And from like Omakase and Rachel here, appreciate all of that. And we can just let this conversation grow throughout the week in the forum. And we'll be back again tomorrow and each day this week. So lots to come yet, but this has been really great.
Yeah, I'm trying to find our schedule of the days, and I'm having trouble finding it, so that we could tell people who's gonna be coming on what days.
Yeah, maybe let's just leave that until we get everybody confirmed, instead of, let's do, the more consolidation of information we can have, probably the better. So we'll keep everybody posted on that, and whether that becomes an announcement in Discord or Twitter post, or maybe we'll come up with a good way of delivering the kind of the schedule for the day, and that way we can try and fill out everything.
Great, guys. Some action items from our end. We'll release a timeline, estimated timeline of where we see this all going. We're also going to be consolidating all the proposals, all the about us's. Some community members are already working on that to make that more digestible. But as Magic Turtle said, recommend everybody to go and read through everything, because there's lots of insights in there. Secondly, I also think some of the things we'll do is, everything we've talked about here with regards to what does strategic mean in the short term and also long term for Sushi, that will all be summarized in the proposal as well as some general thoughts on how we see this deal being structured moving forward. And I think we've already discussed all of that here. Open to any more questions. I'll also be leaving my Calendly on that post as well, if anybody wants to schedule any time to talk. Accessibility is key, and we want to make sure that everybody here has that.
Yeah, Tushru had a question.
Hey, thanks for calling me back up again. I just had a thought. Have you guys considered entering into a consulting agreement with your VC firms of your choice, and having the community basically just vote to distribute out Sushi tokens to them on a quarterly basis? And I think one way you could structure this is, you can ask your VC firms that you choose to just invest directly and market buy the Sushi token, and then do the quarterly distributions through a community vote.
I
And
think.
Sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think this would. I'm just thinking that this might help to kind of sidestep a bunch of these issues with the fairness of setting up this block auction between community and the VC firms, because you're basically directly paying them for their advice, and they would also be aligned in incentives because they would be receiving the Sushi token.
Definitely. So I think that is something valid that we should consider, right? Which firms can we reach out to just kind of on a contract basis, etc., in order for value added. In operationally internally, there are some firms we are already engaging with, right, that provide certain consulting and etc. I think while that proposal is interesting, it doesn't satisfy kind of the other requirement of treasury diversification, right? Because the point is not to just give sushi for strategic value, but it's to give sushi to allow us to convert into USDC for some diversification, while also, two birds with one stone, getting strategic partners on board as well. So while, what you just said makes total sense, and we're actually, currently doing, it just, if for the purposes of this raise, it doesn't satisfy that other condition, that we do need a mechanism to diversify some of the treasury. And this process gives us ways to do both.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yep, thank you, Troupe. All right, what's up, Hannibal?
First of all, congratulations on the shout out on CNBC today, as well as the Grayscale news, which was interesting. I wanted to say about why do you need to do it through a VC? If you want to make the business larger, can't you just go through and improve your human resources and your team through a consulting company like Mercer or Korn Ferry or any other manpower or human resources consulting firm? And I'm sure the Treasury can easily cover the expenses. It'll be an easier way to grow the business, and to any legal issues, any strategic issues you have can be solved through this.
I think this is a really good question. I think it was kind of following up to the previous question, right? Why don't we just use some of the treasury to pay consulting firms for strategic value? And as I've prefaced before, strategic value comes in many ways, but ultimately at the end of the day, this doesn't satisfy the secondary condition, right? That we need to diversify our treasury into at least, USDC. And as I said before, we can utilize that as a sword and a shield, right? And for more active treasury management. So, I think this was a repetition of the question previously. But we are doing those things, right? When, there are, and, if the community has, consulting firms, et cetera, that they think would be a strategic value added, I think we should definitely reach out, right? And begin discussions on, how we engage with them. But for the purposes of the strategic raid, right, it's twofold, right? Diversify the treasury, and for the partners that, help us with the diversification, we want some strategic value added from them. Two birds with one stone. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Perfect. This has been, we're an hour and a half into this now. Maybe any further questions and whatnot, let's save this up for tomorrow. And
oh, you can't deny LOL DeFi.
Okay, well, yeah, let's just take it with LOL DeFi and Crypto Priest.
Yeah, we're bringing them all up.
And then Crypto Priest, let's, and this will be
Yeah,
it then.
we're here
One
all
at a
week.
time.
We're here all week.
Hey, what's up, guys? First of all, I think I love sushi in general anyway. So congrats on everything so far, and it's been a pretty dope journey to watch unfold. So I come from obviously a marketing background, so less technical than most people here. But where do you guys stand currently on general or even retail marketing? I've seen, especially in London, I'm based here in London, we see a lot of crypto ads on things like buses and on the underground, and I mean pretty much everywhere. We're starting to kind of see it creep in now to the sort of influencer circles as well. And yeah, I don't know, it's just become an increasing topic of DeFi and how it could help retail, and there's small murmurs and buzzes of it, but it's just a shame that a lot of people I know who were previously not into crypto, that came into it this year, for example, the first stuff they were holding was Doge and shit, which is super annoying, but it has kind of given them the bug. And I know, you could consider Sushi like a more sort of like DeFi focused or DeFi niche alternative to DEXs, because I think it's like a few amount of people with larger volume, it seems. So yeah, like in terms of maybe expanding or reaching to like a more retail audience, what does advertising mean to you guys right now? Is there any focus on it, or is it more a case of like build for a few years and we'll see what happens later?
So, some very quick thoughts on this. I think, generally, as I said, we're at an inflection point. We have all these features. They need to be consolidated. They need to be comprehensible right now, right? There are still certain elements, of Sushi that I would say average retail users, if they onboarded, they wouldn't immediately understand. We need to fix that problem. I think it's a UX and a UI problem. And I think also, the topic of L2s is a very interesting one because there's lots of friction in DeFi currently, right? If we're being honest, right? Transaction times, fees, etc. Right? So all of our product initiatives, from gasless swaps to, consolidating interfaces to making token pages, token administration pages, are all geared around kind of growing our audience. Because right now it takes a very special audience to kind of like use DeFi. So once we can achieve that, I think the returns on advertising will be, and those KPIs will become much stronger, right? Because right now what we don't want is, aggressive advertising spend, but also aggressive churn, right? Because the experience in DeFi is just not up to par as to Web 2, right? I think in a few quarters we're going to get there, right? Where the experience is just on par with Web 2. And, there can be more aggressive expansions into advertising and using effective advertising, right? And also the second part of using effective advertising, I think, is also establishing deep integrations and deep partnerships with, platforms and systems that could really draw from, using Sushi, could really draw from our feature set, staking, incentivization, etc. And so there have been some discussions regarding that. And, we hope, as part of the strategic value added, whether it's from VCs, consulting firms, etc., that all these actors can help us establish these partnerships and allow us to reach and get set up for these larger audiences so that when it's go time, right, when we're confident, our experience is just as good as the Web 2 experience, if not better, then we can really fly, right? So I don't know if that answers your question. I'm sorry I can't offer any specifics regarding advertising.
No, that's good. That's it's actually a preferred answer, I suppose, at this stage. Yeah, you're right. You answered my question, man. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, Crypto Priest.
Hey guys, first I wanted to thank you all for continuously holding these community AMAs. The few I've listened to have always been quite informative, but they're unfortunately at a quite bad time zone for me. I was just wondering, do you happen to record and have notes for these AMAs that are publicly available?
Yeah, we do
they're-
record and upload them to the YouTube channel. You can find it YouTube/C/Sushi Official, I think is the channel. Yeah, but it's all uploaded. In terms of notes, that is a weaker, more sore spot. We don't have weekly notes that we put up for that, but you can always catch the recording. And your feedback about the time zones and everything, that is very valuable. I appreciate you coming forward to just to bring that up.
Yeah, great, thank you. And just as a quick, I generally find notes quite good, especially because in DeFi you have a lot of protocols to keep up with. So it might be something to look into to form a community forum or just with volunteers.
Yeah,
I think,
absolutely.
I'd be potentially also interested in just bootstrapping that, but we can talk about it later. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Tangle, I think this is a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, this has been
Thank
great.
you, Omakase and Chu, Rachel, for coming out. You guys have been phenomenal.
Great. Thanks for everyone for participating. We're here all week, right? We're committed to increasing accessibility, increasing visibility, regarding the strategic raise. We want to make sure everyone's concerns are addressed and heard. Right. So, as next steps, we're going to post something on the forum that kind of consolidates everything that we touched upon today, and we're also going to provide a timeline. And on the logistical front, we're also working to consolidate all the proposals in kind of a comprehensive format. And we're also going to be requiring all parties interested in the strategic raise to, provide on a basic level, 2 to 3 sentences of why they feel, what strategic value they bring to Sushi that's aligned with our current vision. Looking forward to more discussions. And this is, a very engaging week for Sushi. So happy to see you guys tomorrow and all the subsequent days. Thanks a lot, guys.
Awesome. Any final notes here from Rachel?
Yeah, super glad to be here today with everyone, and I think the discussion has been very healthy and productive. I really look forward to the rest of the week discussing more diversified topics and answer more questions. But meanwhile, feel free to drop any questions to me or Omakase in our Discord DM, and we'll be happy to chat at that time as well.
And of course, there is tons of conversation going on in the general chat and whatnot. So there's that. Plus, make sure that you drop into the forum. And as Turtle had said, give that a read. It's a dandy. It does take a bit of time, but if you can get through there, and any further ideas are always welcome there as well. So.
And we should be expecting a post on the forum thread, Omakase, with like an updated.
Yes.
Brief. Okay.
I'll be making a post shortly.
Cool. All right. Well, I think this is a good place to call it. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. See you tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after, the day after.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.